Good morning. I hope everyone's doing great today. My name is Maegan Tribble. I'm the Senior Director of Finance and Administration for tnAchieves. I know some people joining us have been part of a few of these county updates. We appreciate you coming to learn more about what's happening in McNairy County and just what's happening with tnAchieves students statewide. Our local partnerships are incredibly important to our work. We would not see as much student success without the partners in each of our counties. So whatever role you serve, whether it's a mentor, working in K-12, working at one of our higher education institutions, state or local government, I'm sure I'm leaving someone out, but no matter what role you serve, we are incredibly grateful for all that you invest in students throughout the year, but especially for taking time to meet with me today to get an update in your county. A few housekeeping issues that I want to reiterate. Know that you're welcome to unmute yourself at the end of this presentation to ask questions. You can keep your video on or off. And then you can also put the questions in the chat box that's in the bottom of your screen, and I'll check that out at the end of the presentation. I want to start by zooming out a bit to explain tnAchieves. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We serve as the partnering organization to Tennessee Promise in 90 of the 95 counties in the state. We started our work specifically in Knox County in 2008. That initial year, we had 493 student applicants. Since that time, we've worked with over 440,000 students, as well as 71 volunteer mentors. Annually, we work with over 600 high schools. That does include our public high schools, our private high schools, as well as our homeschool organizations. And we work with 67 eligible post-secondary institutions statewide. To review, I think many of you know this, but Tennessee Promise is that last dollar scholarship that allows students to go to community college or one of the TCATs, tuition and mandatory fee free. The top of this slide explains how we serve as that partnering organization to the Tennessee Promise. One of the main things that we do is recruit and train the volunteer mentors that work with our students to help them transition from high school into the post-secondary institution. I will talk more about our mentoring program towards the end of the presentation. Another area where we serve as the partnering organization is helping students by connecting them with community service opportunities and making sure that they're submitting their community service. They are required to give 8 hours of community service for every semester that they are enrolled with Promise. So they will lose their eligibility if they do not complete those community service requirements. The bottom of this slide talks about our summer bridge programs, our summer institute, as well as our high impact complete coaching model. First, to talk about our suite of summer programs. These are additional programs that we run to benefit students. These summer programs happen between the high school senior year and the first year of college. Summer Bridge is a 3-week academic boot camp. It's geared to help our students start more academically and socially prepared when they start in their first year of college. The Summer Institute is serving Memphis students. It serves the Memphis poor, and students are actually getting college credit when they're going through this program. So both of these programs are aimed to help students start more academically prepared once they land at their post-secondary institution. Complete is the high impact coaching model that we run. We have 17 coaches on our staff serving in this capacity. They are paired, or they are grouped with an at-risk student cohort, and they are really there to help students as they move through their post-secondary journey, connecting them with really important resources and really just being there for the students to ask questions to when they have questions that pop up throughout a semester. So we are really excited to be able to offer all of these programs and serve as that partnering organization to Tennessee Promise. I want to take some time to talk about the Tennessee Achieves reach. We serve in 90 counties, 74 of those are rural counties, 35 are at-risk or distressed counties, and then we work with right over 600 high schools statewide. We work with 67 post-secondary institutions, and then those next percentages give you a snapshot of where our students are attending school. 11% of them are enrolling in a TCAP, which stands for a Tennessee College of Applied Technology. And remember, those are certificate programs where students are going to get a lot of hands-on training and then graduate with a certificate or a diploma in an area like certified nursing or diesel mechanic. So 11% of our students are landing at one of those institutions. The majority of our students are going to a community college. 79% of them are going to one of our 13 community colleges across the state. And then 10% of our students are enrolling at an eligible 4-year degree college that would have an eligible associate's degree program for Tennessee Promise. Expanding a bit on our reach, we work with over 600 high school seniors each year. That represents 89% of all of the high school seniors in the state. 78% of all first-time freshmen at a Tennessee community college are Tennessee Achieve students. So the majority of students who are enrolling for their first year at a community college have gone through the Tennessee Achieves program. And then 86% of all Tennessee community college graduates are Tennessee Achieve students. The gray boxes show some demographic information for Tennessee Achieve students. 56% of them are eligible for federal financial aid. So that's the Pell Grant. 40% of our students are first generation college students, and 51% of them are majoring in health science and STEM related fields. The annual cost of Tennessee Promise is $32 million annually, which is roughly $1,100 per student. And then our operating cost at Tennessee Achieves is $2.5 million annually. Moving into county-specific information for McNairy County. So this slide highlights community service hours as well as FAFSA file rate. Remember, the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. This is a really big milestone for our students to reach. It can be a complicated application for our students and for their families, but it is the application that makes them eligible for federal aid as well as some state aid. So incredibly important that they complete this. It is an area where Tennessee Achieves very much plugs in to make sure students are supported through this process. Statewide, the FAFSA file rate is 86%. And to benchmark, most states shoot for 50%, so we're well above that statewide. And McNairy County is just a hair below that at 85%. So a really great FAFSA filing percentage in McNairy County. Community service hours, Tennessee Achieve students have contributed, this is since the launch of Promise in 2015, but they have submitted over 3 million hours statewide of community service, and specifically in McNairy County, right at 12,000, so a little over 12,000 community service hours contributed by McNairy County students. So we hope that your nonprofits and organizations and just the community at large have benefited from those student community service hours. Student progress in McNairy County. Annually, you all have 312 student applicants. Of those 312 students, 88 enroll with Tennessee Promise. So this doesn't mean that those other students aren't attending college. It just means that 88 of them are accessing and taking advantage of the Tennessee Promise Scholarship. First year retention for your students matches the statewide percentage, so 67% for first year retention for your students. And then you all are actually above the statewide percentage for the 3-year graduation rate at 39% compared to 35% for the statewide rate. Tennessee Achieves statewide information is on this next slide. So you can see that first year retention for first-time full-time freshmen at community colleges is 53%. This compares to 67% for Tennessee Achieves students at Tennessee Promise eligible institutions. And then if you include Tennessee Achieves students who attend any college, so not just a Tennessee Promise specific institution, but if they choose to go out of state, that they started with us in our program, their first year retention increases to 74%. Looking at 6-year graduation rate for first-time full-time freshmen at community colleges, that's 35%. And if you compare that to the 6-year graduation rate for Tennessee Achieve students, that increases to 51%. So we're really proud of these statistics and the impact that we're making for students and on their success. So I'm even more excited to share the impact that those additional programs that I've already spoke to a bit are having on student outcomes. For example, if students go through our summer programs, whether that's the Summer Institute or our Summer Bridge program, that increases their likelihood to retain by 34%. If they're going through our high impact coaching model called, that increases their likelihood to retain by 23%. And then if a student is part of our Knox Promise program, which I haven't talked about Knox Promise yet, this is a high impact coaching model coupled with access to emergency funding for students. And so this is offered specifically to students in Knox County. And the reason we're able to offer this to those students is because we have received a generous donation from the Haslam Family Foundation that allows us to give every Knox County student a coach, as well as access to this emergency funding. So when our students go through that program, that increases their likelihood to retain by 42%. So some great outcomes for those additional programs that we run to benefit students. This next slide outlines college going rate in Tennessee. You can see it goes all the way back to 2007, but two things I really want to point out are, you can see that dramatic increase in college going rate. That is the result of the launch of Tennessee Promise. So between the years of 2014 and 2015, it jumped from 57.9% to 62.5%. But then you can see as we move forward on that graph, the result of the pandemic. So you can see that from 2019 to 2020, there's been a dramatic decrease in the college going rate. And then to the right on this slide, you can see the decrease in the college going rate, specifically in McNairy County, from 65.4% to 54.7%. It is very much an urgent situation in higher education to make sure we're doing everything we can to support students, to make sure they're able to access higher education. There are so many barriers for students during what I guess we could call normal times. And the pandemic has only heightened those barriers for students. So it's incredibly important that we are rallying together to make sure we're doing all we can to help students transition from high school into college. How you can help us do this is by becoming a mentor. Some of you on this call may have experience with mentoring as a part of Tennessee Achieves, and we are grateful for the time that you've spent helping students. The mentor role can really be explained in 3 simple steps. So the first is you are a task manager, making sure that those students meet those critical deadlines to remain Tennessee Promise eligible. The second role that a mentor serves is by being a resource, just answering those student questions. A lot of times students just want to know, what's a credit hour? What's a semester? What's a bursar's office? So making sure that you can be a resource for students. And then the third role for the mentors is being an encourager. A lot of times students just need someone to come alongside them to say, you're doing a good job. While you might not know how to overcome this barrier, we're going to figure this out together. That can have a really, really strong impact on students and ultimately help them continue on in their college journey, even when something gets a bit challenging. Mentoring in 2022, you're going to have options if you're a mentor with us in 2022. So we have invested in a virtual mentoring platform called Tennessee Achieves Connect. So every mentor with the class of 2022 will have access to Tennessee Achieves Connect, where you're able to message students directly through that system. You're able to check on their status, have they completed their community service hours, all of that great information. But we do know that our mentors do enjoy an in-person meeting. And so we are going to have some options for in-person meetings with students. They're not going to be held at the high schools like they have been in the past with past classes. We will talk about this in more detail through your mentor training. So just know you'll get many more details on your options when you decide, hopefully, ultimately, when you decide to become a mentor with our program. It is a 12-hour annual commitment. We break that down to roughly about an hour a month if you're going to be mentoring with our program. The deadline to the deadline to apply to become a mentor is December 3rd. You simply go to our website, complete a one-page application, and then we will be in communication with you about next steps. We do need 47 mentors in McNairy County. We hope that you apply to be part of that number. If you are a new mentor with the program, you'll complete a new mentor application and then do a virtual 1-hour training. We will talk to you about all the details, everything you need to know to support students. If you are a returning mentor, you will do an application renewal, or you can simply let me know or someone else on staff that you want to become a mentor, and we'll get you signed up as a returning mentor. If you're a returning mentor, all you need to do is a virtual 30-minute refresher training. Other ways you can help engage with Tennessee Achieves, I've already talked about the mentoring piece. So I want to move you to the middle part of your screen, connecting Tennessee Achieves with your community. We love to come share about our program, to share about the opportunity to become a mentor and help serve students, help transition them from high school into college. If you know about any of these opportunities, please share them with us. You can simply email those opportunities to mentors@tnAchieves.org. If someone is willing to host us, we are more than willing to come and share the Tennessee Achieves story and to share how mentors can help local students. Tell a friend about Tennessee Achieves, especially if you have friends who are high school seniors. A lot of students know about the opportunity of Tennessee Promise, but not all of them do. So if you know parents of high school seniors or just parents of high school students in general, letting them know about Tennessee Promise and the opportunity before them is super helpful for us. Know that the application for the class of 2022 is live. So students can go on right now and apply for Tennessee Promise if they are a current high school senior. This last slide highlights a specific student story. So this student is sharing that he wants to be the first person in his family to get a degree or credential, a post-secondary degree or credential. And something I want to highlight is, while we're talking about these percentages and these numbers, both specifically in McNairy County and then zooming out statewide, I think it's really important that we remind ourselves that these numbers represent individual student lives that we're making an impact on, and we cannot forget that piece, because not only are we having an impact on an individual student, but ultimately their family. So it's incredibly important that we remember that piece of our work and that we're doing all we can to support these individual students. One of my most favorite parts of the work is talking both with individual students, learning their stories, but also connecting with local stakeholders. So the role you serve as part of this work. So thank you so much for taking time to come to this presentation today to learn more about what's happening in McNairy County. My information is right here. So I am Maegan Tribble. That's my phone number. That's my cell phone number that I use for work. So you can text that, you can call that if you have any questions. And then my email address is listed there as well. If you all have any questions, I'm happy to answer those right now. I'll keep an eye on the chat box, but feel free also to unmute yourself and ask your questions.
No question, just a thank you.
Well, thank
Thanks for the
you.
information.
Absolutely. Thanks for all that you're doing, Kyle, at Jackson State. I know you've attended a number of these, so we appreciate you really digging in to learn all you can about students in your area. I think Valerie may have a question. Oh, okay. Valerie does not have any questions, but she has mentored for 2 years with the program. Valerie, thank you for mentoring. Anything? She's sharing some more about her mentoring experience. She's saying that many of the students don't answer, and I think that's a really good piece of
Valerie, I think it's still recording, but in answer to your question about the Connect, I had the same issue whenever I was dealing with when I was mentoring. One of the things that we've had the most success with now, though, is adding in texting, and so I think that Connect option will be a great asset for this moving forward. It's still recording, so I think unless we all shut off, I'll just say hello. Nice to meet you. Hope to see you in person soon, and I'll make my way out y'all's way soon.
Thank you. Bye.
I am so sorry. My computer just completely shut down. So technical difficulties, always so fun. So I apologize that I exited rather abruptly. That was not intentional on my part, but I know Valerie had mentioned, and Valerie, I appreciate you sharing this information, that students aren't always responsive, especially when you're reaching out to them in the mentor capacity. And I just want to assure you that's really normal. I know it can be a frustrating piece of the program, but we always reiterate to people who are mentors with the program, it's oftentimes the students who need you the most are the ones who are the least responsive. And so the feedback that we get from students is they are hearing from their mentors, they are getting information from their mentors. They're not always the most responsive bunch. So you're not getting a thank you, or we appreciate you sending us the reminder about our eligibility requirement. The students do let us know that those reminders are incredibly helpful to them. So keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference, even if you're not getting direct student feedback. Know that we do encourage students to send the thank you to mentors. We're telling them that that's the best way to communicate with the mentors is to respond after they've sent them something. So we are trying to help encourage them to confirm when they're receiving information from our mentors. But I know they're not the most responsive bunch, but we appreciate you continuing to send the reminders and the encouragement to students. Valerie also mentions that it was hard this past year because you all weren't able to meet face-to-face with the students. And so that can be a barrier to the students reaching out as much because they haven't been able to put a face with the name. We know that's a struggle. That's why we are trying to bring back that in-person meeting with the class of 2022. We have a couple of different avenues in which we're going to help facilitate those meetings. So we're excited to share that with our mentors. But yes, Valerie, I think you make a good point that it can be really difficult when you're not able to meet in person to make that connection. But that's why utilizing Tennessee Achieves Connect is so incredibly important. It can be a really good way to connect with your students, even in this virtual world that we're living in at the moment. Any other questions or comments? Valerie, thank you for sharing all of that. It's really helpful to hear from a mentor and to hear their perspective, especially if other people are thinking about mentoring with the program. All right. Okay, that's all I have today. Thanks again for coming to this update and for all of your questions and comments. We really appreciate all you do to make Tennessee Achieves so successful and all you're doing to help your students in your local community successful.